Hi everyone, my name's Remenyi from seekingbalance.com.au. I'm a vestibular audiologist, neuroplasticity therapist. I'm the author of Rocksteady and I developed the Rocksteady program. I would love to welcome you to my community where we really talk about how we can change our brain by cultivating new neural pathways. And in doing this, we can help to really address and honor the not quite right sensations that seem to be prevalent in our human life, in our human body. And in my community, these often show up as chronic tinnitus, chronic dizziness, chronic vertigo, and these peripheral experiences of chronic pain, isolation, withdrawal, anxiety, depression, relationship breakdowns, you name it. There's sort of a cluster of difficult experiences. And I want to say one of the common expressions of this can just be like, I feel like something's missing. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm alive, my arms work, my legs work. The doctors are telling me medically I'm good enough, but I just feel like there's always something missing. And today we want to talk about that something missing, which I'm going to describe quite simply, perhaps as this exploration in a connection to ourself, to our truth, returning home to the body and really authentically connecting to oneself, as being a really beautiful process, potent process that often is overlooked. We're not necessarily taught how to do this from our parents or school teachers or employers, so we can just mumble through life, really being focused on other people and fitting in when and how best we think we can. So today's conversation, we're going to talk about embracing unrest as a concept brought forward by Dr. Sandra Parker, who published a book called Embracing Unrest. Sandra reached out to me and we built a program where we supported a 3-month journey with live calls and an intimate Facebook group for folks interested in learning about this concept of authentic connection, listening to felt sense, dropping truly into their body in a new and intimate way. And we all fumbled and mumbled through this process together. I have a very special person I'd love you to meet. She's part of my community. Her name is Lydia from the UK. Welcome, Lydia.
Thank you. Hello.
Lydia has been part of this Embracing Unrest project and experiment and exploration. Lydia knows me from an experience of labyrinthitis, vertigo, migraine, and embracing unrest was a concept that really connected with Lydia. So she took the journey and she's very courageously offered to share part of how that landed for her. So Lydia, would you like to wind the clock back to perhaps reading the book Rocksteady and where you were then? And then we'll start to learn a little bit about how you embraced your unrest.
Yes, of course. Hello there. Well, I've lived with vestibular migraine for a number of years, sort of going back to my teens, and some feelings of not feeling quite right, and often having this sort of feeling of what's happening next, almost sort of like a dissatisfaction in some ways inside. And at the beginning, when I first experienced labyrinthitis and vertigo, and I searched on the internet for some advice, some resource. There wasn't an awful lot at that time. This is back in sort of 2008. So I did a lot of research. Eventually, sort of many years later, I struck upon your website, and to cut a very long story short, I realized you're in the process of writing this book, Rocksteady, and could not wait to read it. Because it really resonated with me, and I'd already looked at the resources online and listened to your wonderful body scan, and tried to use the sort of self-compassionate route as well by listening to your voice. And so that's how I came upon Finding the Rocksteady book, which I've read at least twice, cover to cover, and there are lots of incredible things to learn from that. But what really strikes me is the holistic nature of the book and neuroplasticity, of course. It's not just looking at physical sensations or symptoms. It incorporates psychological, social, as you know, spiritual, and also things that touch as well, which is really important with with vertigo and feeling more easy.
Yeah, it's a really tender process, especially when we've experienced a loss of trust in our body, and that tends to go hand in hand with chronic symptoms. It's like, why is my body doing this again? Or what did I do to cause this symptom? We tend to get into this very judgmental and analytical, abnormalized space, which can actually be quite traumatic and make it hard to be present, and it can make it hard to be in our bodies. So the Rocksteady program and all the 6 modules really go through that step-by-step, tender, slowing down process of the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual reconnection to self, which helps to dramatically open up possibilities for neural pathways to form. Tell us a little bit about how you then probably got on my email list and stumbled across Embracing Unrest, which is a new program, a new offering, collaboration between Dr. Sandra Parker and myself.
Yes, indeed. I think at the time I was following your website and keeping an eye on progression and the various courses or programs that you offered people, and this particular one, Embracing Unrest, it seemed the right one for me anyway. I could really resonate with that. And coming from a psychiatric background myself, I'm a psychiatric nurse, and I have great interest in anxiety symptoms and unrest, of course. So I read Dr. Sandra Parker's book as well. I bought it on the internet, and I have them next to me now.
I think show them to
yeah.
listeners.
Oh, I'm afraid that's
Beautiful.
it. That's the 2 books. And I think they work hand in hand, really.
They do. And I want to backtrack a little there. So Dr. Sandra Parker is a registered psychologist based in Canada. We actually share the same publisher, so that's how we met each other. Sandra reached out to me and said, I've been told, Joey, that we share a similar language, a similar vibe. I'm curious if you want to connect. And I was open to that. I read her book and I said, you know what? I think what Sandra offers from her psychological background is this almighty micro pause at this very specific moment that is important in the neuroplasticity process and important in the Rocksteady program. It's pausing at this micro moment of sensing and noticing any kind of tension. Embracing unrest refers to this little spike of the nervous system where the body and the brain are going, something's not right. I don't know what it is, but something's not right. I'm sensing and feeling something and it's not right. So the body's getting our attention. And we can so quickly dismiss, deny, ignore, avoid, numb, push aside, white knuckle through life and just not listen to those little moments of unrest. And they can accumulate and build up into our body screaming at us. So what we did was we paused as a group with Sandra and we looked at this concept of unrest and these little tiny moments of tension, which could sit anywhere in the body. We could be noticing it in our big toe or in our left shoulder or in our intercostal muscles in our rib cage or in our jaw. So it's really not being symptom focused, but body focused. And we're learning how to be warm, curious, nurturing, interested, and to stop. And in that micro opportunity, this tiny moment that is so easy to glance over and completely miss that richness. We're as a community, we were pausing and noticing and tending lovingly and reassuringly to our bodies. And I felt like one of the global take-home messages as a group was the body registering, you mean I matter? Like, I'm telling you something's not right and you're listening to me? Really? And there was this sort of like, Joey's finally listening to these little messages I'm giving her all throughout the day. And I've been on this rocksteady and neuroplasticity journey for a long time. And what struck me as really beautiful and potent about the Embracing Unrest program and process is you can always go deeper. Like there's so much we can overlook and push aside. And often it's based on capacity too. You know, if we're distracted or busy with life, we don't have the luxury necessarily to pause and process. So I think it's also about putting that time into ourselves and changing the way we approach our day to keep up with the body. So I'd love to hear that. Just gives a little background on Embracing Unrest and Sandra Parker. You can Google her book. Lydia, talk us through how this landed for you. And, you know, if you think about call number one.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, exactly. You then versus 3 months later.
Yes. I was supposed to be on the third call, but I think somebody didn't turn up for the call or something, and so you asked me to fill in. So that was a bit panicky, but okay, I just kind of embraced that. And to be honest, I found it incredible. The first call, I felt quite vulnerable at the time and quite unsettled during the call, and then it was my turn to talk. And I think, to be honest, the change in me started after that first call, because I remember talking to you about being on quite high alert a lot of my life, and living in my head, which I think a lot of people can probably relate to. Just here. And I think I've been doing that for years, and almost forgetting that you've got a body attached to your head. And I remember you suggested that I just calmly and quietly think about a drip feed coming from my head to my limbs and gradually going down to my feet, which was, completely alien to me. I had never done anything quite like that before. And you asked me to play around with it and to practice it, during that month before the next time. And my goodness me, it really does work. It stops you in your tracks, actually. And I just found it incredibly helpful.
And from memory, that was a standing exercise, wasn't it? I said, come on,
yes,
let's get up and get moving and standing. And I drew upon the Rocksteady programmer.
That's right.
That was actually a process I often use with triple PD clients who will also be very much in the head, and it's difficult to sense and feel the body. Therefore, it's difficult to glean the wisdom from the body and to truly be present, because it's all just so uncomfortable. And
yes.
it feels, it's not actually true, but it seductively feels easier to be absent and to dismiss, deny, numb out, or get caught into these mental loops of problem solving and fixing, because we think somehow that's how we're going to get ourselves out of the pickle, when the mental problem solving are often just completely red herrings. They're not particularly helpful. And learning to activate more of those neural connections from our feet, our pelvis, our knees, our waist, our spine, our fingertips, hands and limbs, that really helps generate more information for the brain to use for those new neural pathways. So it was also about waking up the body and not being stuck in a meditation style forced relaxation or forced calm, or was reawakening that connection. And I remember at the time, so just to put into context, there were 3 calls over 3 months, and each participant had about 10 minutes to be in their body and to be guided by Sandra or myself. And so, we're using this little 10-minute time to really deeply connect. And so at the time with you, I was feeling obviously intuitively guided to bring you into that upright, standing, moving brain body connection. But at the same time, there's always that question of, I wonder how that landed for Lydia. So your homework is to help us get that feedback.
Yes.
So it's really beautiful throughout the months watching how you took that played with it, practiced it. And can you talk a little bit about what that was like? Sort of going from,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, I'm in the spotlight.
Yes. That was you did really feel like I was, to be honest, I was more concerned about the fact that I had my pajamas on the bottom and then the top on the top. So having to stand up
I
on the
didn't
screen, but
notice.
nobody
I didn't
noticed.
notice.
No, exactly, no. But no, you certainly are in the spotlight. But I think once you think, no, I'm here for a reason, and I'm here to really feel these sensations and to try new things to assist in my life, if you like. And to be honest with you, when I practiced what was suggested, that technique, I can honestly say it felt like I was meeting up with an old friend I hadn't seen for a long time. And honestly, it really, really did. And it was quite humbling and very, very moving. And for for a week or two after that call, I did feel incredibly tearful and actually thinking, actually, I'm finally going to attend to Lydia as opposed to everybody else in my life, and to think about her first. And I think just by doing that with you that evening, it just gave me it just opened the doors for me, if you like.
I was just about to say the image I'm getting.
Yes.
It's almost like what I'm feeling or sensing as you share that is it's like you picked up the phone and Lydia was on the other end and you're like, hello?
Yes. Oh my God, that's true.
Oh, hello, darling. Oh, right. Yes. Oh, I'm here now. Great. So cup of tea tomorrow? It's like this lovely sort of innocent and so simple. But it's like a phone line. The phone was ringing and you picked it up. And this is this embracing unrest, beautiful. And it's very rock steady too. But the embracing unrest micro moment of going, okay, the phone's ringing. It's my body, it's me, it's Joey. Am I going to pick it up and listen? Because if I don't pick it up and listen, nobody else gets the call.
That's so true.
Is not picked up. So can you talk a little bit for listeners about your version of what is embracing unrest and what is it not?
Okay, or what is it not? I think what it is, it gives you an opportunity to, and I remember Dr. Sandra Parker saying, look inside. And for me, that was looking inside. And I don't think I've ever actually really done that. I've looked inside other people and listened to other people's woes and issues, but not actually to myself. So that's what it meant to me. Look inside, meet the person that you are really. And like I'm using the term "come home to yourself," which was used an awful lot during that course. But what is it not? Let me have a little think about that, Jeremy. What is it not? It's not for the faint-hearted. It's not for people to. It has to be taken seriously, I think.
Well, I guess I guess what I mean is if you go wind the clock back 4 or 5 months ago, before there was this conversation, before there was this language, and before there was this invitation.
Okay.
And what I'm sensing, or if I speak for myself, and Sandra also talks about this in her book, when we're not embracing unrest, I think at some level we're judging ourselves and we're abnormalizing what we feel. We shouldn't be that way. I've decided I should be this because I've been told I should be that. And I'm going to believe the outside world. So therefore I'm going to judge my body and say, no, you shouldn't be giving me that signal. I'm not embracing you. I'm not listening to you. I'm not going to be interested or warm in you. I'm going to medicate you and tell you you should change. You shouldn't have that tinnitus noise. No way. That's not acceptable in my idea of how you should be, Joey. So therefore I won't accept you. I'm going to try and medicate you and I'm going to spend lots of money trying to get rid of you because you shouldn't be there. Whereas embracing unrest would be, okay, I'm actually noticing a bit of teeth and jaw tension. I'm noticing a dry throat. I'm noticing some changes in my body noises. Body, I'm picking up the phone. What's up? Tell me more. Tell me more. I'm just super curious.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I
So
also
that
say
just
it's
paints a
not,
picture.
yeah, I think that's really inspired me actually, in the fact that it's not self-criticism. That's not what it is, you know, because because I think I was to blame for that over the years. You know, I've often criticized myself. I'm quite judgmental inside and tell myself off. I used to, you know, things like that. But I've turned that around to
Amazing.
actually to look after myself,
That's
to be more
powerful. Can you,
caring.
yeah, I was just about to say, tell us more about how we're interested in you and you matter right now, all of us listeners.
Okay.
Indulge yourself. Tell us a little more about how your relationship to yourself has changed, because this stuff is pretty potent and this changes how you walk in the world. It changes everything. Tell us a little bit more about how your relationship to yourself has evolved and adapted in the last 3 months.
I think I've realized that I deserve to be listened to. I deserve time for myself. You know, I'm a mum, I'm a grandma, I'm this, I'm that. But actually, I think it's time to just think, oh, bless you, to think more, you know, for myself, and to be more compassionate towards myself. That definitely has changed. I think also it was very humbling to listen to other people's stories as well. That I felt very humbled to listen to, you know, different people's vulnerabilities, if you like, and the way that people opened up so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it certainly has. I think I'm age 61 now, and I'm finally able to not only support myself, but to try and reassure and manage more difficult times. And hugely, I'm much less afraid of sensations and symptoms.
Yeah.
That has been very prominent for me.
That's enormous.
It is,
And
absolutely.
as we talk about in the program, when you can feel those sensations pulsing and moving through those neural circuits in your body, and they're no
Yeah.
longer processed through the fear filter,
Mm-hmm.
because you've just said, like, I'm not really afraid of them anymore. I can sense and feel them and get curious and warm and
Yeah.
feel reassuring toward myself. Those sensations and or symptoms, depending on which word you choose to use, are now
Yeah.
going to be processed through a different brain filter, and
Yes.
one that creates the opportunity for the body to actually weaken those pathways and befriend them and make sense
Yes.
of them,
Yes.
rather than have them trapped in
Mm-hmm.
dangerous, life-threatening, fearful, which keeps all the symptom loops very highly activated and exacerbated.
Yes.
So it's a very powerful transition. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And another thing I really enjoyed from the calls was, I think we talked about using our right brain more than our left brain. Do you remember we'd had a really big discussion on
Yeah.
that? And I've been trying to do that more, rather than just looking at things in structure and, you know, linear and all that kind of thing. I've been actually looking at the sensations, or whatever we want to, you know, describe them, and actually putting form to them, or color, and it's been quite exciting actually, because I've actually created, I mean, I feel sometimes like I have it feels like a spirit level in the back of my head, trying to, you know, sort of balance me and keep me level. But I've actually described this sensation as a sparkly rock pool. This sounds quite bizarre, but it feels like it's sort of like a little pool of water with lots of things swimming around, and this sort of sparkly light coming down onto the rock pool.
Yeah.
And so whenever I have these sensations, I think, oh, hi, there's that sparkly rock pool. And it probably sounds a bit crazy, but actually
No,
it kind of works for me.
It's perfect, because you're changing by changing the imagery, And your prefrontal cortex up here allows you to choose how you interpret, imagine, create narratives. You know, you can creatively imagine how you shift and change your relationship to the world and yourself. And you're actually changing the neural networks that are stimulated and fired. And then you're changing how we activate that limbic midbrain system, the emotional midbrain, whether we go straight into those midbrain loops of fight, flight, freeze, and trauma, which keep the symptoms exacerbated and keep us disconnected, closed down. And we're not embracing unrest. We're deeply, deeply stuck in the unrest, but white knuckling through life and just trying to make things work. But it makes relationship hard. Or we can go into the sparkly rock pool, make it light, playful, humorous. We're still up here. We're activating the prefrontal cortex. We're still able to relate and connect to ourselves, to the world. There's a non-threatening lightness about it. And we're physically activating different parts of the brain, which we need for those new neural pathways. So it's not silly at all. It's actually highly evolved.
Yes, absolutely. It feels fun as well, you know, to actually and quite personalized, because I'm not sure how many people would come up with the sparkly rock pool. Probably, you know, a few maybe, but it's your own interpretation, isn't it? And it really works.
Absolutely. And I think you've just hit another very important roadblock, which is useful, I think, for listeners. And we all do it, myself included. It's comparison. You know, what are other people doing? Are they doing sparkly rock pools? Well, it actually doesn't matter.
No,
because it's me, it's my body sensations. I'm the one picking up the phone or not. And the way other people do it is actually really unhelpful and irrelevant. But there is medicinal, a balming quality that connects us to our shared humanity when we sit in circle and with reverence and a sense of sacred pause, listen to each other as we go about this process. And everyone's a little different. However, there was just such a vulnerable purity to every single share. You know, I think we had 18 participants and each person had 10 minutes each. And we all had our different edges and our different locations and our different discomforts and our different roadblocks or questions.
My word, yes. Yeah.
But in that 10 minutes, it felt like a long time, didn't it? And
it did actually, yes. Yeah,
you know,
in the spotlight for quite a long time.
But even listening, you know, I felt like in that 10 minutes, I was really seeing that person in their truth and in their authenticity and in their vulnerability. And it was really, really beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And maybe this is just another interesting sort of side note, but I think when we are connecting, willing to feel in tune with the body, time slows down. Like 10 minutes feels like a really long time.
That's true. That's very true.
In saying this now, I'm sort of thinking in the hot seat on the fly, but I notice I have moments like that with my children where I'll sort of access more of my brain, probably be a little bit right brainy, a little bit more abstract and
creative, of course.
And I'll catch their eye contact or the softness of their cheek or the fluffiness of their hair. And I just think, gunk.
Yeah.
Time slows.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's so juicy and yummy. And like, there's no worry
wonderful.
in the world.
Yes.
How can I get more of that? Right. And I think it's there's a paradox or an irony. By embracing my discomfort, AKA unrest, time slows down, but it opens up. Yes. And I'd love you to speak on this, Lydia, if you have something to share, but it's not like sitting in discomfort and it's all just like, I hate this. It's like, oh, body, darling, you're uncomfortable. You're braced. You're nervous. You're tense.
Yeah.
Tell me more. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm holding you. I've got this. I'm solid. I'm strong. Like, tell me more. I'm curious about you. There's a softening. There's an opening. There's a flow where there was no flow. It's like the rivers of my sensation were blocked and dried up, and now they're flowing because I'm listening. So it feels alive. It feels beautiful. It feels connected. It feels relational. So it's this paradox of embracing unrest and discomfort actually being very comfortable, very softening.
Yeah.
This is my words. Can you speak a little bit, Lydia, about crossing that bridge of discomfort, being like, oh, I don't want to, not sure about this, to sort of going, oh, that wasn't so bad. It was quite nice.
That's true. Yeah,
Tell
most
us,
definitely.
tell us
Yeah.
about your experience of crossing that bridge.
What are you talking about after we had our experience, our individual
Actually,
experience?
I
Yeah.
mean, any could even be at home when you're sort of going, okay, I'm going to do my homework. And
Yes.
we sort of enter the discomfort maybe a little braced and like, ooh, but
Yeah.
on the other side, it's like
Yeah.
something softens and we're like, oh, I did it. That felt
Mm,
nice.
yeah.
It's that
And I think
paradox.
yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I think, like I said in the beginning, it felt alien, just not
Yes.
connecting, with my body and head, if you like. And yes, it did feel a bit strange, I have to say. But once I actually realized the benefit and the feeling that I got and the real value of that, it just feels almost like second nature for me now,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how I'm doing it. I am saying, tell me more. I mean, it
Mm.
did feel very, very odd, but now I am saying, tell me more, and actually really, really listening. And those times is when you really do open up. And
I think that's the key. If we
mm,
go back to that imagery of picking up the phone,
yeah,
when it's uncomfortable and we're bracing and it's unrest, no one's picking up the phone. We're just like, oh, don't go there, don't go there, don't go there. Distract,
mm-hmm,
distract, mop the floor, do the dishes,
yeah,
call a
yeah,
friend. Right? We're not embracing unrest.
yeah,
But as
no,
we stop and go, oh, okay, Joey's calling me. I'll just find a nice quiet place and I'm going to pick up the phone. It's in that picking up the phone that it's suddenly the relationship begins, the door
yeah,
opens. And for
yeah,
me and my body, is a relatively quick softening to like, oh, thank you. My
mm,
goodness, I've been trying to contact you and you haven't been answering the phone. And here we are. And me and my body are getting this physical, mental, emotional, spiritual flow. And as you said right in the beginning, because of my sensitivity and my ability to sense and feel in the world, it's easy for me to lose myself in other people. And I leave
yes,
Joey.
yes,
And then I have to have this skillfulness to come home and re-engage with
mm-hmm,
my authentic truth.
yes. I
Um,
think that is so prominent. That authentic truth says an awful lot to me. Yeah,
yeah. So
that's taken me right back. Yes.
tell us more about that. And I know you've got some notes too. So if there's anything in
Mm,
particular you want to, because I think the authentic
yeah,
truth is key to your story.
it is. And to be honest with you, it goes back many, many years. I think I was telling you very briefly earlier before
Yeah.
we recorded that I'm the youngest of three siblings, and I've got an older brother and an older sister. And from a very young age, I mean, my sister was very shy, and so was I actually as a child. But I wasn't able to be shy because my sister pushed me forward, even though I was the youngest child. And I used to find that she'd hide behind me and almost wanted to be protected by me. And so, what did Lydia do? She jumped out in front and she would perform and she would do some sort of performance for adults and, to make people laugh, a bit like a little quirky clown, really. I used to be very much like that. And I always felt that perhaps I wasn't being true to my real inner self at that time. And I think it began very early on.
Mm.
My sister was naturally shy, and I used to have this sort of feeling of not particularly feeling settled, and often a sense of unease, which I feel I've carried through my life. A feeling of what's next, or actually there's something missing here,
Mm.
and I feel that is certainly improving by the work that I'm doing, if you like, and also writing memoirs about my past as well has been
Mm.
very helpful,
Mm-hmm.
because you can look back as an adult and from an adult's perspective, which is quite interesting, but it's also very cathartic because it brings up so many past emotions as well, of course.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether this probably, I think, looking at embracing an unrest, I think your past does have an impact on who you are now, without any doubt.
Yeah. And even if we think about it from a neuroplasticity and neuroscience perspective, we're building those neural patterns and neural maps in utero. It's starting in utero when our mothers are pregnant with us. And
Yes,
we're learning how to relate to ourselves and relate to the world at the earliest years of our lives.
absolutely.
But because many of our parents are disconnected to their truth and their authentic connection, there becomes this trauma pattern passed on of, come on, calm down, you'll be right, move on, get over it, hurry up then, do this, do that, feel this, feel that. So it's all very externalized, and we're not being taught how to really listen, how to be warm, how to be reassuring, how to reconnect. In a sense, we're being taught how to dismiss, distract, deny, numb, fake, pretend, and we're being rewarded for those behaviors. So the brain is actually forming those habits, and that's becoming our toolkit: deny, distract,
Yes.
numb, fake,
Yeah.
pretend, until it really doesn't work anymore and we're adults and we're in the world and we learn more and we understand neuroscience and all this information on trauma is coming forward, and we start going, I do feel like something's missing. I do feel like I'm constantly searching and seeking something that never quite feels meaty. And I suspect for many of us, it's this self-connection piece, that we've never potentially been given permission, space, or education on how to really connect with what we're sensing and feeling and what's going on in our inner world. And there's a lot of complexity in there. So it's not like you do a 5-minute meditation and that's it, you're done. It's an ongoing way of life that we're picking up that phone more often.
Yes.
And someone's listening. That's a two-way street. It's not just the brain and the mind dictating authoritatively what the body should be doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this meaty piece of something missing, I'm hoping really comes through for many of my Rocksteady clients, and that seems to be a really common reflection or insight from my Rocksteady members who go through the program and the 6 modules with this process is really broken down into a step-by-step exploration of that physical, mental, emotional, spiritual reconnect. And a lot of them will say, the symptoms have taught me how to slow down and prioritize myself, put myself first instead of giving away to other people. It's taught me to not ask an external source to fix me or fill that hole. And they'll say frequently that it's given them skills, I think, to have humanity and compassion for the complexity, for the mystery, for the non-linear nature of being human. And I think often we get into these pickles because we want a linear solution, and by that I mean, I have a splinter in my toe, let's get tweezers and pull it out. It's simple, A, B, C, D. It's beginning, middle, and end. But when we have chronic symptoms or this paradoxical missing something that we don't even know what it is, it's not linear.
Yes.
We can barely describe it. It's confusing, elusive. We end up with a linear mindset, very left brain, trying to solve a problem. I don't like what I'm feeling, get rid of it. But it's a non-linear journey. And the rebuilding and the reshaping of our brain and the reconnecting to ourselves is a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, non-linear journey where we are really cultivating a new version of ourselves with loving kindness and compassion. It takes time, it takes presence, humility, and in my
Dedication.
and community. It's hard to do this alone. We need that motivation to keep going, to keep asking questions. And as you've mentioned, hearing other people navigate it is very connecting. It's not that we're comparing ourselves, it connects us that they're doing it their way. It feels beautiful to witness and share that. But I was going to say, in my perspective, this is a very sacred process and very humanizing. And thank you for being a part of our community, Lydia.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. It's been it's just been so valuable to me, and I think it always will be. I think it's I think it's going to hold me in good stead. Sorry, in good stead for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know I only know you in this brief context of our 3-month journey, but I feel like I've seen a huge shift and change in how you show up and how you wear yourself in such a short period of time.
Without any doubt. Without any doubt.
Really feels miraculous.
Well, I feel it is.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've just really valued.
Yeah.
And like I said, I always will. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Me too. I'm going to invite you, if you would like to share any passing closing words.
I'd love to.
For yourself, for listeners, please.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in the books actually that I didn't know I was able to quote at all, but
go for it.
Whatever. There was. I mean, first of all, my little quote is basically, it's never too late to address yourself or address your life.
Yeah.
You know, to come home to your body and to actually meet your true self. I think that really is important for me, and to give yourself time and compassion and care, because you deserve it. But there's a little piece in the Rock Steady book, which I have my little and it says, there are things in life that we cannot always control. The weather, for example, or other people's actions and behaviors, or interactions with the outer world. In contrast to this, we can control our inner world, our thoughts, feelings, ideas, dreams, relationships, and our perception of sensations. These are all aspects within us that we can control. Good place to invest our energy, effort, and focus, because it gives back to us by cultivating an inner world of alignment and harmony. We create what we feel on the inside once we become adept at feeling, focusing, and clearly choosing where we pay attention. That was my favorite paragraph in the book.
Taking control back. And I feel like you really took that on with your example of the sparkly rocks.
Yes, without any doubt.
You took control over what you did with that information, and you played with it.
Yes, beautiful. I certainly am. I still am. And there was one from Sandra's. Am I allowed to quote from Sandra's book?
I would love you to read from Sandra's book.
Yeah.
Sure, she would love you to as well.
And this is really interesting, because I'd made up my little story about the riverbed and the rock pool. Yet the problem is the riverbank, not the flow of emotion. The emotion is not too big. The riverbank is too shallow. The overwhelmed person is not paying attention to unrest to soothe the arousal. The ignored arousal stays high and mixes with the energy of emotion, amplifying and distorting its flow, and the riverbank overflows. I just love that.
Yeah, I love the river analogy too. And I think the more we tenderly, gently, slowly, with capacity and resource and support, the more we're able to welcome in these sensations and these neural firing patterns, that riverbank naturally builds up, that we don't flood, we don't get overwhelmed. We have skills and tools to stay present, to be secure in our adult self, to not become those sensations or feelings, but rather to be the container that can hold them and witness them and dance with them and flow with them, and to keep that river flowing, because it doesn't feel helpful or healthy to have the riverbeds dry up and or flood. So no feeling, distraction, denial, disconnection would be the river drying up. But then overly focusing on it and not having any containment would be the overwhelm and the flooding. So they're great metaphors.
Wonderful metaphors. And thank you, Sandra, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lydia. I've really enjoyed reconnecting with you. Thank you.
Me too.
Thank you for volunteering your time and courageously sharing your experience. I'm going to pop a link below this podcast or YouTube to my Rocksteady community and world. And one of the short programs I offer is called From Embracing Unrest to Rocksteady. And it was a short program I offered for my Rocksteady program members to really explore this micro pause. And Sandra and I gathered together and we held that space for 3 months. And so we've got a short program. It's a replay version that you can tune into if you wish. So my name's Joey Remenyi from seekingbalance.com.au. Visit my website to learn more about me, my community, and my offerings. Lydia, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
I'm sure our listeners have really connected with you and they're grateful for you sharing your humanity. It's so beautiful to have these stories.
Oh.
Yeah. So everybody, it's a bye for now.